Live from deep in an underground bunker in East Tennessee, this is America's premier mortgage fuel services expert, Paul Williams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Foreclosurepedia Podcast. Foreclosurepedia Podcast is a presentation of the Foreclosurepedia Radio Network, which premieres each Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, the news cycle this week, I'm telling you, it was off the chain. I don't care if you are liberal. I don't care if you are conservative, independent. I don't give a damn if you're a communist. The news cycle in the United States this week was off the chain. Before we get to that, I want to talk to you a little bit about our guest. You know him, you love him. Great friend of mine, great personal friend of mine, Aaron Aviero. Aaron owns, alldaymobilemedia.com. Great individual on the investigative front when we talk about GMO, the issues with our food. What exactly is our food? And believe me, I'm not getting South Park Pandemic Special Integrity Farms here. Aaron, I know you out there. How you doing this evening?
Hey, how's Foreclosurepedia Nation? How are you?
The audience is doing well. I'm doing somewhat well. I have some pretty heavy sinus going on. We had another change this season. We're in the 20s here, my brother. At night, the 20s.
You know what? We had a touch of snow. There was a little bit of snow on the ground this morning. We've been out there getting our yard. Yeah, just a little bit. It was gone in an hour. But that's the sign. It's time to button the yard up for the wintertime and get it ready for the spring.
Boy, I'm telling you. Hey, Aaron, the audience loves you. It's always good to talk to you. I want to get right to it, right? Because, show prep, as you can see here, show prep always going on here. Breaking tonight, and we're recording this actually on a Friday, 19 November, 17:49 hours Eastern Daylight Time. Kyle Rittenhouse. I want to speak to this just for a moment, if I could. You have Kyle Rittenhouse, right? This is a man, a young boy actually, 18-year-old, who was painted by the liberal media, Proud Boys, and he was the Nazi impersonation. He was the epitome of everything that everybody wanted to hate. And the ironic thing here was he didn't shoot a black man, right? But nobody wanted to talk about that. But when we talk about the pundit sphere, right, the pundits that are out there, their head exploded. All 6 felony charges were dropped. What say you?
Honestly, you got to tip your hat to a few people involved here. First and foremost, Mr. and Mrs. Rittenhouse. Even though they're split apart, they've done a great job with that kid. They've raised an upstanding young man. The other part, I tip my hat to the jury for having the fortitude to say, hey, this is the truth. And the other person involved here is the judge. As everybody knows, I got a little track record. I've been in and out of courtrooms a lot, and I honestly thought that judge did a really fair job, especially controlling his patients with a bad prosecution. I mean, I saw a lot of what they would call prosecutorial misconduct, but overall, great day for American judicial system.
Amen. Hey, and you know me, I'm a excuse me, I'm a constitutionalist. I'm very much about the rule and the letter of the law, right? And so the judge in this case was an incredible jurist, right? And in this, what I want to touch on is this. He refused to allow anybody to be called a victim. And the reason that I think this
Correct.
is important is because unless and until somebody is convicted, there can be no victim legally. I'm not talking about outside the courtroom, right? And so Justice Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court Justice, rest in peace, African-American, used to take on Justice Black all the time, former KKK member in the U.S. Supreme Court. And this is here, last 30 years, true story. But Justice Marshall had opined on one occasion and stated that law, that justice, these are two different entities. These are variables, right? Law is the game that we play based upon a manipulation of a given set of rules, variables, or motions. Justice inevitably occurs outside of the courtroom because it is more driven, if you will, by feelings, this innate moralistic piece of our humanity. But law is where we all agreed many centuries ago to lay down the swords and allow them to be pounded into plowshares, right? So on the Rittenhouse decision. So I am curious. You're actually in Oregon. Is it? And correct me if I'm wrong. Oregon. When I think of Oregon, I've been there. When I think of Oregon, I think about hippies, liberal environment. Portland wasn't that far from the CHOP in Seattle. So, I mean, what are you seeing up there in Oregon right now? What is coming to you?
You know what? Being part of the West Coast for as long as I've been, it's a very curious place because you have pockets of what you refer to as that liberalism. If you were to carve out different areas on the West Coast, Portland area, that whole area would be its own entity. The rest of the state is liberal. I mean, really, really conservative, mellow. This area where I'm located, you can walk down the street, and any given block, you're going to see a minimum 5-6 American flags on the street hanging out in people's front yards. You hear children playing, you hear dogs in the neighborhood barking, and people don't really understand. If you don't understand that, take a deep breath and just think about the little things in life you take for granted, because those are the little tiny things that when I was in Kansas City, I didn't hear.
I'm going to get sideways for just a moment because I'm glad you brought that up. When you originally went to Oregon, there's a restaurant. You wanted some biscuits and gravy. COVID had a stranglehold on us.
Yes, it did.
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the town. We don't want to mention the town, but talk to me about the town you're in. Give the audience that feel, because it is a slice of Americana where you live, right? It's not the mainstream. It's not the drive-by media's perception that we're all polarized.
It's not.
We're not polarized, are we?
It's not. And well, it's really funny because when I got back on my feet, started going out in the street and doing the media thing again, I kept looking. I kept looking for this racism that everybody talks about, that you kept hearing on the TV. And here's what was so funny. Why I'm looking for the racism: 2 black people put a roof over my head and put food in my mouth and clothes on my back. So I was like, wait a minute, where is all this? And when you get out here, you do have the hippies. It's a little slice of Americana. Where I'm located right now, it's kind of like Kansas City, a very historic part of the United States. If you're into that scene, this town I'm in is on the Oregon Trail. So there's a massive amount of history here.
Talk to me, if you will, about the biscuits and gravy and the restaurant.
It's called the Oregon Trail Restaurant, and when I got here, Katie Brown, as I call her, Katie, the governor, she had everything closed. So I had to do a little quick video. Hey, Katie Brown, Katie, I am the official biscuits and gravy aficionado, and I report directly to the President of the United States. You need to open this restaurant so I can try their biscuits and gravy. A week later, her lockdown mandate came off. Now, I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. Yeah. But the biscuits and gravy there are great. If you're around the area, hit the Oregon Trail Cafe. They got great biscuits and gravy, bacon and eggs, great breakfast menu too, man.
So what say you on the Rittenhouse decision? Do you believe that this is good or bad for America? And let me bisect that question just for a moment and juxtapose this. Do you feel if it is good or bad? Do you feel from a jurist point of view, from a constitutional point of view, do you believe it was wise, and do you then believe that it'll send a message, perhaps the message that we can protest, we can raise our hands and scream and publish whatever we want, but what we're not going to tolerate is the destruction of private and public property because you're upset? What say you?
I believe you're 100% correct there, and the biggest takeaway from what we see, and this is the reason I believe this is a good day for America. I don't care what side of the fence you're on right now. You got a firsthand look at how the media lies and twists everything up. And the reason I am thrilled about that is because while I was researching stuff today, Foreclosurepedia came up in Google News.
Oh my God, no. Tell me it's not so.
So what, well, here's what I'm getting at. It's the little people that people are starting to look at for the truth, because they know they can no longer trust mainstream media. So in that respect, not only was it a good day for justice in America, I really do believe you're going to, and maybe I got a little tinfoil on the head right now, but I got to ask this question. I think I would be remiss not to ask this question. Could this decision, the guts that the jury showed, be a pivotal point in the divisiveness in this country, and maybe people will start looking at what's going on because they've seen what the media did?
Well, I think the decision, not of the judge. I felt the judge was an honest jurist, and especially
very.
And you know, I'm going to get out in left field. You know, I never do that, right? But was MSNBC and their agent following or shadowing the jurists because they knew the time that the jury had been out? They thought perhaps they would attempt to taint the jury pool. I don't know. I do not have the playbook of MSNBC. But what I do say is this, that perhaps we are rounding a corner wherein Americans, regardless of race, color, creed, sexual orientation, political belief, perhaps Americans are saying, we're tired of shit getting burned down, we're tired of things being destroyed, and therefore we're going to send a telegraph that states or says this: the Second Amendment perhaps gives law-abiding citizens the ability to protect the assets of the community that they live in. What say you?
You know what? I don't know anybody who does not claim to be American who would not defend their home. And I mean, this community where I am right now has welcomed me in. If something happened, I'd be right there to stand with them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, unlike Jerry Nalder, who just tweeted, this just came across my desk. You're sitting down, right? Because you, as a constitutionalist, you're going to fall over when I read this to you. Jerry Nalder, he's a representative out of New York. Right. He's the one that farted on the House floor that day. He's a Democrat.
Let's not get out there. So he's a Democrat.
Okay. This heartbreaking verdict is a miscarriage of justice and sets a dangerous precedent which justifies federal review by the DOJ. Justice cannot tolerate armed persons crossing state lines looking for trouble while people engage in First Amendment protected protests. There's 3 lies in there, number one. How is it a miscarriage of justice when the system worked?
Well, I would submit this to Representative Nadler. So I would submit this, that while he may be extremely discomforted by the decision that was rendered, unless and until the provision of ex post facto is removed from the Constitution, I think the best thing he could do is retire with the rest of the octogenarians that currently inhabit House of Representatives and the Senate. And in those statements, I'm not speaking directly to, I think that I am bipartisan. I think we have too many Democrats and Republicans serving too long of a time, and they're out of touch. I mean, when we said octogenarian at the age at 80, let's go 60 to 80. I mean, I'm going to be honest. What the fuck was happening 80 years ago? What the fuck was happening 80 years ago? Fuck. I don't even know if it's in the history books. Hey. But look, I don't want to. I'm coming up on a hard break. I give a station identification here in about 30 seconds. But look, I think you and I, and you and I don't always agree on things, but I think you and I agree on the verdict today. Is that correct?
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Foreclosurepedia. That is true. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Foreclosurepedia Radio Network. We broadcast each Sunday evening the Foreclosurepedia Podcast. This evening's guest is Aaron Aviero. He owns alldaymobilemedia.com. So, here's the other interesting thing. So now that there's just been so much news this week that I am encouraged as an American that we've laid down our swords and beaten them into plows, right? As we were instructed to do by the Bible. And when we speak about how we plow and till things, you're the guy that Foreclosurepedia Nation loves to hear. Your front lines, I mean, there's no other way to put it. Your front lines on the investigations in GMO, but you also are excellent in horticulture, gardening, things of that nature. So we're in November. Everything, by and large, is laying fallow across the nation. For example, here we're in the 20s. So I want to talk a little bit about that piece. What should people be doing right now? Whether they have an acre to plow, or they can till and put under, or what about if it's in their own basement or in that, God forbid, sublet apartment that Goldman Sachs rents for $30,000 a month? What could people be doing right now preparing for next year? Aaron, go.
If they're doing something out in the yard, and that's what I've been doing off and on all day here today in between production stuff, getting the yard, what I call prepping it for spring. You kind of, you have certain plants that are perennials and they'll come back, so you want to give them a little insulation, maybe use a leaf drop instead of sweeping all your leaves up. And that's what I'm doing. I'm using a little leaf drop, a little steer manure for.
What do you mean by leaf drop? Help me there. What do you mean by leaf drop?
when the trees, your deciduous trees, lose their leaves in the fall, naturally they leave all the pretty colors around, but they also leave a big mess in your yard. I normally leave that on the ground where I have crops and stuff to insulate, like your garlic right now, so it gets a nice big bulbs in the springtime. Onions is another one, but all your flowers that'll come back, your carnations. I'm drawing blanks on all the flowers we have out. 4 o'clocks, chrysanthemums. I planted so many flowers in the yard I can't remember them all right now. But just getting the yard ready, protecting. Where you got certain things, like some of the poppies that are on this property, we'll put a little some of the leaf drop on there, so get a little insulation between that hard bite, and not only that, but there's minerals and stuff that'll leach out of those leaves into the ground to help feed everything in the spring, so you get a nice good spring sprout of everything.
Now I understand. In correct me if I'm wrong. You do a lot of reporting, a lot of publication on political items, on opinion pieces, but you actually, from time to time, consult with people who would like to actually plant something in the ground that's not GMO, that is not Monsanto related, that you don't have to pour a gallon of Roundup upon. Do you do that? And how could people look? Hey, shameless plug for a great friend of mine. How can they get a hold of you, Aaron? Go.
AllidayMobileMedia.com. AllidayMobileMedia.com. There is a speak pipe feature on there. You can leave me a voicemail. You can send an email through the About Us page. There's all. You can go there. There's all kinds of stuff. We put some great recipes up, and of course, it's holiday season, so just a little traditional thing. We try to find old family recipes, holiday recipes, and some of them, last year we had some from Germany. What was the other one? Switzerland, I believe it was.
Incredible.
It was how to make a Santa bread, so if you got a family recipe, you want to make grandma famous, hey, send it our way. We'll be more than happy to publish it for you.
I'm going to leave it with this. I'm one of the old school guys, one of the very few probably left in America. I used to love the fruitcake, and I still to this day love mincemeat pie. But look, Aaron, we're getting close.
You know what, man? I haven't had mincemeat pie in so long. If anybody out there makes mincemeat pie, send it to me. Please, I love it.
I hear you. So we're getting close. At the bottom of the hour, we have a senior level HUD official that's going to speak to some things in the industry. But I wanted to bend your ear. On one item. So we have Soleil Amarova. Biden tapped her to serve as the comptroller of the currency. She's currently going through hearings right now. And to me, this was a complete fucking shit show, right? I mean, you're the president of the United States. Used to be, and I'm hoping still now, the most powerful nation on earth, terra firma. So you have people who can you have people who can investigate people, right? Before you put them on.
Yeah.
So let me tell you a little bit about this, right? So the comptroller
is that person a felon or something?
Let me tell you. So the comptroller of the currency, just to give you some background stats, they regulate about 1,200 banks, and those 1,200 banks have about $14 trillion with a T in assets. They regulate about 2/3 of the entire United States banking systems. Now here's the interesting thing, right? So you had the ability, and usually you're gonna, we call it vetting, right? You're gonna figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yes.
So a little background on Miss Amarova, right? Miss Amarova received the Lenin Scholarship. Many of us might remember who Lennon was, and it wasn't John Lennon from the Moscow
Vladimir.
from the Moscow State University. Currently, she's a professor at Cornell Law School, and she said, and I quote, correction, she said, and she wants to, and I quote, end banking as we know it, end quote, by requiring bank deposits to be held with the Federal Reserve. All right, no party, no foul. We want to get socialist about it. You want to get fucking communist with it? Hey, fine with me. They got some big titty blonde-haired girls in Moscow. I'm down with that, right? But here's the problem.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. In May of 1995, at that incredible liberal bastion of democracy at the university in Madison, Wisconsin, she was caught stuffing $214 worth of clothes, shoes, cologne, and belts into her purse at a TJ Maxx store. Now, Aaron, what say you? If she did that, she wants to end banking as we know it, wants to take our money, and understand, inflation goes up or down, that means they take money out of your account. What say you? What part of democracy am I fucking up? You know what, man?
When I first heard this, and you take a step back from it for a minute, and you kind of peek in that rabbit hole, it takes a quick left. You can't help but wonder: does the banking industry need a fall guy? Who needs a fall guy right now?
Rabbit hole. This isn't a rabbit hole. This is through the looking glass, Alice.
Yeah.
Ah.
It just looks to me like it's almost like somebody. I mean, that's like setting the bowling pin up.
My concern is really, you have to have an appointee, and I understand. Look, I'm going to be really candid. You know why I like Uncle Joe, and you call him Sleepy Joe. You know why I like Uncle Joe? Like me, he's an alcoholic. No, it's a true story. Everybody knows my story, right? Don't talk to Paul, after 5 p.m. because he's knee deep in a fifth of Glenlivet, which I love by Scotch, right? But with that, and because years ago he was quoted, he said, we wouldn't have all this crime if you hear a knock on the door, you don't answer it, you just simply shoot through it. That's a real quote. You can go look it up, right? So I like Uncle Joe just from that point of view. But what the fuck, Aaron? Why aren't we vetting people? Because here's the problem, right? So, December 3rd, we get a problem, right? We're pushing our funding of the United States here, and we're also trying to push this woman down. So, I mean, do you think it's wise? Should we vote for her?
I don't think anything this administration has done is wise when it comes to the interest of America. And I just think what is going on right now, it's like a little kid lighting matches next to the gasoline can out in the garage. Sooner or later, this whole thing's gonna blow up, man. And they're not making any sense with any. This gal shouldn't even be there. She shouldn't even be there.
Well, I'm telling you, look, this is a bipartisan issue, right? So I'm going to end it with this because I'm pushing a hard bump at the bottom of the air. So I'm making 2 predictions. Omarova, she's the fuck out back where the fuck she used to be. One last prediction: Powell's gone, Brainerd's in as Fed chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Aaron Aviero, proprietor of alldaymobilemedia.com. Aaron Aviero, incredible individual, pushing the envelope, the bleeding, cutting edge of GMO, and also on the political side. We'll be back after this from a word from our sponsors. Thank you. Boom.